Buddy, my name's Scott Montgomery. I am the CEO of Welltech. We are a recently listed company on the CSE, the Canadian Securities Exchange. We're a digital health platform based out in Asia Pacific, servicing corporates via wearable technology, via software, and very excitingly into a hardware proposition. So we have a huge growth trajectory ahead of us. And today we've got a short form webcast and insight into the growth initiatives of Welltech across the next 12 months. And I'm joined here today by Mr. Olly Bridge, who is the company's Chief Growth Officer. So we've got 10 or 15 minutes here to hear from Olly primarily and myself, and then some interactive Q&A at the end as a bit of an insight into how management is approaching the upcoming growth strategy. So if I can briefly introduce you, Olly, with a quick background of yourself, and then we can get into what you're embarking on this next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Scott. As Scott said, my name's Olly Bridge, and I've really spent my career trying to have health impact at scale. I've spent the previous 7 years as the head of digital health and wellbeing at Australia's largest health insurer, looking after over 4 million lives. And then prior to that, I'd spent the previous 5 years working and growing the world's largest corporate health and wellbeing program, which is now the Virgin Pulse. And prior to that, I trained as an exercise physiologist and worked with professional athletes like F1, Formula One drivers, and British Olympic gymnasts as well. So I've spent my career in health and wellbeing.
Fantastic, and I know that speaking on behalf of the entire team, not just management and the board, but we're excited already the traction that you've brought to the company in such an early start. So Olly, with a background in health yourself, you have a very strong footing. You've been through that commercial journey, bringing vendors into organisations, and not just in your own backyard, but internationally. Growing that presence into well over 100 countries, and then recently from the other side of the desk as an insurer, sort of seeing how the trends and the different styles of expansion and innovation towards an insurer are coming to you. So you're positioned really well to learn, I suppose, and then to make that very sharp strategy and towards taking what is quite an innovative or cutting edge proposition out to market again internationally. So as a business, the company has identified 5 key strategic priorities for growth. Are you able to just talk to us about maybe a few of those tonight and what your prioritized focuses are over the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. We can really categorize the first 3 strategies into 2 basic camps, and that's capacity and capability. So if we think about the first one, which is to build and refine our direct sales and marketing capacity, we're actually going to spend 10 times the amount on sales and marketing than we did last year, really getting that engine pumping from our direct channel. And then number 2 also falls into the capacity side of things, and that's really to strengthen and grow our reseller network. So we're really, really fortunate to have such a strong partnership network. We've got the likes of Willis Towers Watson, one of the biggest brokers in the world. We've got Garmin, who's obviously one of the biggest, or I think the biggest wearable producer in the world. And also NIB and Bupa, which are some of Asia's largest health insurers. So we're really well placed to use their scale to help our growth, to boost what we're doing in the direct channel too. And then thirdly, we move on to more of the capability side of things and really using new products to help answer our clients' really wicked problems that they've told us about, and how we can help them solve those with our new products coming out and things that we're talking about with Project Shape and Project Positive, that really will address exactly what our clients have been telling us that they want our help with.
Yeah, fantastic. Those 3 initiatives are big, and they're obviously very powerful if you hit on them. You've touched on a 10 times investment into into direct channels and personnel this year, sales and marketing. Have you got geographic zones specifically that you're going after? Are you going after them all at the same time? How are you approaching that?
We absolutely are going after geographical zones, and really for us, first of all, we're really focusing on Asia Pac, and the reasons for that are plentiful, but really the core reasons is we've already got a really strong footprint here, and it's really hard for competitors to gain access to this very, very diverse area. So we've got a really strong foothold that we want to capitalize on. Plus, the research shows that around 3 out of 5 companies across the world have a dedicated wellness budget. And only around about 29% of organizations globally actually have a really comprehensive wellness strategy. Now, that differs greatly between the different regions. So if we take North America, for example, it's about 76% of organizations there have a really comprehensive, well-ingrained wellness strategy and partners. But actually, when you come over to Australia and New Zealand, that falls all the way down to about 34% of companies. If you move into more Asia, that's around 47%. And then if you go into Europe, that sits at around about 42%. So some real opportunity there because the penetration is nowhere near as great, and it allows us to use that footprint that we already have and really accelerate that penetration into the market.
Yeah, great. Okay, and so the sales offices for the team at the moment are across Asia Pacific. Do you want to speak to where those current team members are based?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a really strong team here in Melbourne, where I'm speaking to you right now. We also have a team in Sydney. We also have a team in Singapore that's growing quite rapidly. Also team members in Dubai, and soon we'll be opening up North America with a Canadian office, and then soon after that opening up a European office too.
Excellent. So truly international.
Yeah.
You mentioned Project Positive and Project Shape just before. So they are internal project names at the moment, but can you describe how product development is really going to be quite influential to these priorities, and why have you chosen each of these projects?
Yeah, well, really, we've let our clients guide us on this. When I mentioned a few moments ago those kind of wicked problems. Well, our clients have said that there are some real hills that they're climbing up at the moment, and one of the major ones is around the mental health of both their employees when we're talking about employers, but also members when we're talking about insurers. We know that most organizations across, or large organizations anyway, have an employee assistance program, or EAP. And this is mental health services that are available for people in talking to a psychologist over the telephone, or even going in and having face-to-face. Now, that service has been around for many, many years, and they've really struggled to get the utilization up to a level that is actually making a dent. So average utilization across the world is around about 3 to 5% utilization. But if we know from all of the statistics that are out there that anywhere between 20 and 25% of the population are struggling with a mental health disorder at any point in time, there's a huge delta between the people that need the help and the people that are getting the help through EAP. So we know that organizations are really struggling with this, and actually it's their fastest growing cost and risk to the business. So they're crying out for a solution, and Project Positive is about using our infrastructure in a proactive way to help our clients solve those wicked problems around mental health and helping people on the pathway to improve their mental health. And then Project Shape is similar in terms of the size of the problem, but it's all around weight management. So if we know that 70% of the Western world are overweight or obese, and around about 28% of the global population are inactive, it is a real problem because, again, not only from a size of the problem point of view, but the risk that that brings to businesses and insurers. Stats came out quite recently that showed that somebody that's obese costs an employer around $1,800 more than an individual employee of normal weight. So that's per person. So that's a huge cost base for employers to have to front up that they need help with. And who's better to do that but a digital platform that connects to wearables that helps people to actually change their health behaviors.
Yep. So you've got mental health and physical coaching capabilities at the moment. You're doubling down on that. And so there are some people that have more of a need or a want, equally importantly, to work on mental health improvement, and then equally some that want to work on more of a physical or a weight or a shape type goal, and there's some that want to do both. And so you've got that the largest addressable market within the population of employees, and you're covering off both. So I can see obviously how that ties into growth.
And Scott, if we think about the previous conversation around budgets, we know that there are designated budgets out there. And we know that there's a problem that we can solve. So we're trying to bring the two together and actually say we have a solution, and we can help you spend your money wisely.
Very good. Makes sense. You've mentioned Asia Pacific already. It's obviously the backyard. There's a lot of population, a lot of opportunity there. But that's the immediate focus of 6 to 12. But you've mentioned opening up a Canadian office. So Welltech, how near is that for the international expansion?
It's actually very, very close. So we'll be looking to place someone in Canada as part of the growing team in the kind of June to July, and then Europe we're looking probably 6 months after that. But we're looking to move fast because these opportunities are really important that we're on the ground, in the location, localizing our content, really making sure that it's relevant for the people that we're talking to. One of the biggest successes of Welltech over the years has been the fact that we have localized and that we have got different languages, and really making people feel like this is a personal thing for me. And that will be critical as we move into these other markets.
Yeah, obviously makes sense there. COVID-19 is the topic of every single meeting, and it's obviously impacted the world as we know it. How has this helped shape or adjust these priorities over the next 12 months for you?
Yeah, well, certainly the last thing I want to do is trivialize the impact of COVID-19. Obviously, I'm here in Australia, and we've been incredibly lucky to get away pretty lightly. But it's had a dramatic impact, even from an Australian viewpoint, in terms of hybrid working and how we lead our daily lives. And my heart goes out to those in North America and Europe that are struggling far greater. But I think if we think about it from a Welltech point of view, and actually what it's done on maybe a silver lining point of view, is one thing absolutely dramatically changed, which is the adoption curve of telemedicine and digital health. So an example just recently would be that prior to COVID in Australia, we were really lagging behind from a telemedicine point of view. We were around about the 20,000 teleconsults a month here. In April and May of 2020, in Australia, that had gone from 20,000 up to 6 million. Yeah. So a huge uptick in acceptance of digital health. Which obviously paves the way for us beautifully. But then if you then talk about the softer side of things in terms of boardrooms are now talking about wellness just as they were previously around safety, and the two are inextricably linked, obviously, but actually specifically CEOs talking and reporting on wellness stats, which in my 20 years in this industry hasn't always happened, I have to say. Safety, yes, but not wellness. And then we've also got an HR team that are scrambling to try and keep their people healthy and safe at home. They're trying to navigate things that they can do to bond teams when they're working remotely and make them feel connected and not so lonely. And again, all of those factors really bode well for a digital platform that's around social, it's around health, and it's about getting people healthier and happier. And so it's been a terrible undertaking for the globe. And as I say, I'm not trying to trivialize that, but the upside of it hopefully will be that people are much more amenable to getting what they used to go into a doctor's surgery for. They'll now get that digitally. And I'm sure people on the call will have had experiences that they probably wouldn't have had digitally before.
Yeah, makes sense. And part of the value proposition of the WellTech platform is that there's a detection and empowerment function, so you can detect and describe symptoms or conditions to people, risk factors. You can then coach them through some of the behaviors to improve that risk. And then in some settings, we can bring forward that consultation into a virtual environment. So we can bring care to the individual, providing the accessibility that virtual psychology and virtual medicine does. So they come together very, very nicely to help get ahead of risk and therefore reduce costs. And obviously not just within Asia Pacific, but moving international. So thank you, Olly. Look, it's a very difficult decision to describe the big initiatives in such an aggressive growth strategy. The company is very well capitalized. It's very well positioned. Headcount and expertise is growing, and we can see here that we've got those are the 3 of 5 major growth initiatives around sales and marketing, around product improvement with Project Positive and Project Shape. And taking that out internationally from Asia Pacific. So very well described, thank you. We're going to open up for some Q&A to any attendees who have got any questions sitting out there at the moment.
I won't bite, I promise.
There's one here, Olly, around the different locations and having your personnel based in a few locations, but meeting many countries. So so few locations, so many countries. How do you sell digital health internationally when you can't be in front of people?
Yeah, great question. And I mentioned that I spent time growing the largest corporate health and wellbeing program in the world. And in fact, back then, and this was way before Microsoft Teams and Zoom meetings and things like this, we were in 185 countries, and we only had the offices in 8 locations. So very similar to a setup that WellTech have, and they are a phenomenal success. And we had great success selling in, even if we weren't in those locations. And one of those really is a multiplier effect of multinational companies and rolling it out in a really efficient way. So I'm supremely confident that it won't be a limitation for us.
Makes sense. The whole world has gone digital to a degree.
Yeah.
Another couple here. So number one is that there's expansion out into a hardware proposition into virtual care. Do you incorporate that into your growth plans for 2021?
Yeah, absolutely. More into pilot and tests and clinical trials in the early stages. But absolutely, it's paramount for us to expand our continuum of care, and also it'll really show that we're leading this area, and we're leading into cutting edge areas that our competitors just aren't able to follow us.
Makes sense. Good. A couple here around forecasting and revenue. So we as a company aren't forecasting revenue expectations. However, growth rates we can talk historically and where we're going to. So last year, almost doubling year on year. There was an 85% growth rate And speaking to the year-on-year growth, we're seeing at least that forecast for 2021, 2022, and 2023. So that's a doubling to tripling of revenue. The other metrics that we're monitoring for the company are number of countries. So in over 30 countries in 2020, we'll be looking to expand that this year. And the number of corporate customers and the number of users. So just over 8,500 users on the platform end of last year. We're looking to again multiply that 2021 and then again 2022, 2023 year on year. So hopefully that answers the series of questions in and around revenue and growth rates in here. Just scanning to see if we can cluster one more in. We're trying to keep this nice and short and accessible on the run. The question around what's the feedback? How's Welltech being received by new customers? So I'm expecting that as a proposition and a product innovation perspective. So Olly, how is Welltech being received by some of its new customers?
Fantastic. I mean, this is a space that hasn't had a real disruptor in the space, and Welltech is coming in to do that. And I think that some of the feedback that we're getting around the personalization really makes the difference. We know it makes the difference in in-person care, and it means exactly the same in the virtual world in our solution too. That is by far and away the personalization and the back-end analytics that we're providing to organizations and to insurers so that they can be much more directed with their wellness dollar to be better in what they're spending for tomorrow than they were today, because they know more. They know where they can spend it to have the biggest return. And again, that computing power and that ability to show that insight has been an absolute success factor for us.
And I think a couple of the data points in and around that are really interesting. So of any of the programs that we run for corporates, there are varying completion rates of those, sort of 4 and 6 week programs. And typically we're seeing in and around about 75 to 85% of a completion rate of users that are participating in the application for the duration and completing that program. So we know that that the product's being received well by customers, and especially with these enhancements of personalization into Project Positive for a mental wellbeing enhancement and sophistication, and then Project Shape, that those rates should only increase and improve. So I'll cut it off there. Thanks everyone for the questions. Hopefully they've been clustered together well. You can hear from us on the channels that we have. So our website is listed in the presentation here, welltech.co, and again that's the ticker WTEQ on the CSE. So Olly, Chief Growth Officer of Welltech, thank you for your time and attention. To the audience, both live now and then for those that watch the post recording, really appreciate your attention. It's a competitive space out there for opportunities. So I just want to acknowledge that time of yours and to our team as well. So thanks everybody. Have a great day, good evening, and enjoy the upcoming weekend.